my students come to me at the age of 17 or 18, and some of those students have intensely rich language backgrounds. Some of them don't. Some of them find it difficult to put a coherent sentence together. And they come from a background where only rudimentary utilitarian language has been used in their lives, and they haven't been exposed to that richness that I would suggest everyone in this room has. Right? You know, one of the things about every single person in this room is that we are all extremely high-level users of language. We are very, very good at it. And think about what that means to us. It means that we can use language to explore such a diverse range of concepts and explore them well, right? Using our language skills that help us produce those things that we consider reason. Right? On the Dublin group, we had that fantastic, fascinating debate, principally between Steve and Claudio.
And Ashley as well.
And Ashley, yes, of course. Sorry, Ashley. But there was a debate, and I thought, and I said to Claudio, that would be a good one to capture somewhere, and you know, if not publish, but have it as an exemplar of how debate should be conducted. And the chief characteristic of that debate was the superlative use of language. You know, and if I may, Claudio, take your example. Claudio is a person for whom English is not even a second language, I believe, Claudio. Third language, okay? And yet Claudio's use of English is superb at every level, okay? Well, why? Because Claudio has a language-rich background. And, you know, he's reasonably intelligent. So the students that come to me with this somewhat deprived language background have particular problems. Those problems include vocabulary. English is a very interesting language because, and I believe a wonderful language, because it is so nuanced in its vocabulary. We have remarkably fine gradations in meanings between different words. And I will often, with my students, ask them to describe to me things like, what is the difference between the words guilt and remorse? Now, all of us know what those two words mean, that they do have distinctions in meaning, okay? But for students deprived of richness in their language background, they will find it impossible to find the difference between meaning. They will say that those two things are synonyms, pure and simple. Okay? And yet they're not. And that happens all through their language experience. They use malapropisms. You know, they are incapable of finding exactly the right word for the job. And that's only one of their problems. Another of their problems is their grammar. Right? They find it difficult to compose, either orally or in writing, sentences that are either compound or complex. Simple sentences are usually no problem because they generally have a fairly decent primary school background. But as soon as you start to and we do need, obviously, to be able to compose complex sentences that are rather lengthy to fit the meaning context of our message. And if you can't compose a complex sentence, then your ability to get your meaning across is inhibited. Now, what's this got to do with fundamentalism? Well, I think it's got quite a lot to do. We will all have seen various creationist websites and the messages that are put on there, and most of us will have a bit of a giggle and a laugh about the quality of language. You know. And I often spend several minutes correct him. and it makes me think that perhaps one of the reasons that fundamentalists are as they are is because language for them is not an opportunity, but rather a cage in which they're imprisoned. And without having the language skills, the complex language skills that they need to explore reasonably the concepts they're operating on, their language instead imprisons them within a certain capacity of thought. Ashley?
I'm sorry to drag everyone back to Left Behind. But it did occur to me, I mean, in my review, what I concentrated on mainly was the minds of the authors behind the novel and their theology and how petty and small-minded their view of the world was. But what I perhaps didn't get across so much was the fact that even when you leave the theology and more messages out of the picture, they were just dreadfully written novels.
Yes.
There were sentences that didn't make sense.
Yes.
There were certain switches, points of view, which just confused everyone. Even on a macro level of plotting, Jenkins and LaHaye would spend pages and pages and pages on how one of the heroes gets from A to B, but not so much from what he did at A or what he did at B. It's reported after the event. And so I'm just wondering whether this also fits into it.
I think so. It certainly, well, I mean, that's probably more a problem of literature than a conceptual problem. But I think that, yeah, the point is there that in trying to mount an argument or tell a story even, you need the language skills that will allow you to be expansive in that argument and concise as well, without labouring on, about the journey from A to B. Yeah. Well, the other thing that I would say about the use of language and or the closed use of language and its correlation with fundamentalism, and please, I'm only saying that this lack of language ability is only one feature of fundamentalism. There are lots of others. I was going to talk about oppositional affective disorders in fundamentalists, because I do get students who are fundamentalist Christians, and of course they're entering my class, which is a critical thinking class, and I'm sorry, but they're just going to get wasted in my class when they present their ideas. I try to be tactful about it, but I am Australian, so it doesn't always happen. But I do say, if you want to argue your position, if you want to argue that the world was created 6,000 years ago, well, you'd better be good at it. You'd better be good at arguing, right? In other words, you'd better be good at using the English language to present a watertight case. And it's not so much that their facts are all over the place, of course. I mean, I don't have to tell you people anything. The world was not created 6,000 years ago. Okay, we'll just clear that up. Okay. They think that their facts, their collection of facts, and their criticisms of evolution and so on are enough, and yet they lack that one basic ability, and that is to put their case together. They don't have the language to be able to do it, right? So what I teach in my, and they also get very oppositional about criticism, right? Another feature of the fundamentalist, because for the fundamentalist, the affective component of their psychology, the emotional component of their psychology, is so closely related to their belief systems. You know, they like, they enjoy, they feel good in this little world in which they've been brought up. So much so that